Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first webinar of the 2025 Innovation in Motion webinar series. Thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar focuses on how PennDOT's Bureau of Planning and Research serves the PennDOT community in a variety of ways, including big data and visualization tools, new product research, geographic information system services, and products and transportation planning. My name is Jacqueline Huss with PennDOT's Bureau of Innovations, and I am your moderator for today's session. Before we get started, I want to review a few important housekeeping items. All attendees are muted during this webinar session. If you need closed captioning, please select the closed captioning icon in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. A question-answer period will follow today's presentation. If you have any questions during today's session, please use the chat box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen to submit your questions. One professional development hour will be awarded for attending today's webinar. If you would like to receive the PDH credit, please click on the link in the chat box to complete the survey and submit your information. Before we begin, please be advised that this session is being recorded. If you ask a question or comment in the chat box during the session, please note that by doing so, you are consenting to the recording, retention, and use of your statements recorded as part of this session. I'd like to kick things off with introducing our speaker for today. Pat McVeigh, Research Program Management and Implementation Manager, Bureau of Planning and Research in the Research Division, will be sharing the various types of activities happening with the Bureau of Planning and Research, how they interact with almost every other bureau within PennDOT, and how the data and tools being produced can be helpful to improve your work. Welcome, Pat. Thanks for being with us today, and let's get started.
Good afternoon. My name is Pat McVeigh, and I'm the Research Program Management and Implementation Manager within the Bureau of Planning and Research here at PennDOT. I'm here today to give you a little bit of an overview about our Bureau, types of different activities that we perform, and how those activities are impactful in influencing other areas within PennDOT. Our Bureau is located within the Planning Deputate, and the Office of Planning collaborates with local governments and other planning partners to help plan transportation projects and maintain a multimodal network. We serve as a resource and administer a number of programs to help assist local governments, rural and metropolitan planning organizations, and the general public. Our Bureau specifically focuses on a few key activities that I'll be going over in just a little bit. The four main areas within our Bureau are the Resource Development and Management Office, the Geographic Information Division, the Research Division, and the Transportation Planning Division. While all of these activities are very unique and have their own functions, they all work together to help provide better services for PennDOT as a whole. The first area I want to talk about is our newest area. This is the Resource Development and Management Office. This was created in June of 2024, and it was done so with a focus on streamlining budget, procurement, and administrative activities. So prior to the creation of this office, all of these activities were done in the technical area within the Bureau. So Geographic Information, GIS, was doing their procurement, Traffic Counting was doing their own procurement and budgets, and it was significantly easier to bring all of those activities under one umbrella and allow for a more focused effort on maintaining compliance and making sure that all of these are getting to the proper steps in the process that they need to. They are responsible for developing, administering, and monitoring and evaluating all of the Bureau's contracts and invoicing, which does include the state planning and research budget, all purchase and non-purchase order invoices, and everything involving ECMS within the Bureau. They're also responsible for overseeing all purchasing activities and administrative functions to help ensure that those are operating at peak efficiency. One division within our Bureau is the Geographic Information Division. They're responsible for creating, maintaining, and delivering various cartographic products as well as geospatial data. So these are very related activities, but they are two distinct ways of viewing this geographic data. So I'll start out by talking about our cartographic information section. They're responsible for the production and maintenance of various cartographic products, including our Type 5 township mileage maps, our Type 10 county boundary and general highway series maps, our tourism and transportation map series, state route maps, which are type 3, functional classification, national highway system maps, and various metropolitan area maps. If you have a specific map product that you are looking for, please feel free to reach out, as this division has maintained maps going back as far as 1911, and they are always looking to provide whatever mapping services that you may need. They are also responsible for fulfilling orders from the map sales office, which interfaces with both the public and internal PennDOT people. And they maintain the geographic and legislative boundary layers that are used by our other areas within the geographic division. They also assist district personnel with their use of GeoMedia and ad hoc maps. There are members throughout the districts who are GIS professionals, and they are able to perform some of these activities. And our central office folks help them out and make sure that they're operating in an effective way and that they're providing their customers with proper products that match what we have in central office. So these maps are built off of geospatial information, and the geospatial information is helped maintain along with other geospatial information by our geospatial services area. So they're responsible for creating and maintaining our core geospatial data sets. This includes coordination and ingestion of external data to the GIS database, such as from RMS or other PennDOT sources, and they combine those in and create these layers that are easier to digest and easier to understand. They do this through ad hoc requests using Esri's ArcGIS suite as dictated by other business areas, and they also help assist business areas with their own ArcGIS support. They also are responsible for creating and maintaining GIS web maps among various applications, such as PennDOT OneMap, as seen here on the screen, or the PennDOT Open Data Share Hub. And as many things with this area, they also assist with any general GIS business needs that your area may have. So recently, this team worked with our multimodal deputate and their bicycle and pedestrian team and helped to improve the department's existing bicycle PA routes layer and create an entire new US bike routes layer for use in Pennsylvania. So this bicycle PA routes consisted of 10 designated routes within Pennsylvania, and then the US bike routes consisted of AASHTO designated routes across Pennsylvania, 4 of which run through PEA. This process completely overhauled the bike PA routes layer by improving alignments, incorporating trail data that wasn't previously used, updating existing attributes, and adding new attribute fields, including those such as average annual daily traffic, or AADT, shoulder width, parking lanes, and route descriptions. The data sources included RMS centerline data, as well as DCNR and data from the Southwest Pennsylvania Commission, or SPC. The Bike PA and US bike route layers are now available and can be found on the PennShare or through PennDOT's open data portal or added in via PennDOT OneMap. If you have any questions about this layer or about any layers, this section is also responsible for maintaining data dictionaries and is happy to help you find what information you may be looking for related to the geographic information systems. The next division that I want to talk about within our bureau is the Transportation Planning Division. So this section has this division has two distinct sections within it. The Traffic Support section, which has field operations, and our statewide WIM program, which stands for Way in Motion, and our Traffic Services section, which includes the statewide traffic analysis or short-term traffic, our statewide CAVC or ATR program, or permanent sites, and then our performance reporting or HPMS section. Now there's a couple acronyms in there. I'll get to those in just a second. So the first section I want to mention a little bit briefly, because they provide a lot of support for the rest of these areas, is our field operations section. So as I said, they provide both analytical and technical support in maintaining of our in-pavement traffic counting devices. So we have three different types of counters that we use more often. The fourth one, the short-term in-pavement, is being phased out. We have our automatic traffic recorders, ATRs, which are sites that collect continuous traffic volume data for across 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our continuous automatic vehicle classification, or CAVC, that are collecting both vehicle volume and classifying the vehicles 24/7. And then our Way in Motion station, that in addition to collecting the vehicles volume and classification, they're also weighing the trucks that are going over them. Short-term in-pavement loops or STIP sites are inductive loop sites that are considered semi-permanent, as the loops are maintained in the pavement, but the counter itself is not there and is brought as needed. So our field operations staff is responsible for diagnosing any issues that any of these sites may have, traveling to the location, seeing if there is a physical problem with the counter, communicating back with our long-term, our permanent site analysts, and making sure that if they're seeing any issues in their data that can be addressed by adjusting how the field is set up or operating, that they will make those changes. Another duty that this field operations staff has is they will also administer portable counters, and they will set traffic counts in certain locations as assigned by our short-term traffic analysis section. And in addition to our vendors and our district staff that are collecting these, we do have our field operations staff set and collect traffic counting data. So I mentioned our permanent site CAVC ATR program a few times here, and this is a group of analysts that are responsible for collecting traffic volume and classification on a continuous basis throughout the year. And when I say continuous basis throughout the year, I mean that ideally these sensors are collecting data 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. They're selected in specific locations throughout the state in order to meet certain traffic pattern groups and certain functional classification requirements in order for us to be able to use this data for other purposes and have us know what type of data that it will be giving us. So this is critical in transportation decision-making and related to highway funding, traffic engineering, highway design, planning, programming, and air quality. So these selections are very deliberate and are on highways that are going to give us good long-term permanent data. We currently have 8 ATR sites as we are moving more over to CAVC. So we currently have 120 CAVC sites throughout the state. So while we do have one section that is just on CAVC and ATR, we have a separate section that is responsible for our WIM program. So while there's one set of analysts looking at the counters that are not doing weight, there is a separate section that handles our 22 weigh in motion sites. And these locations, as I mentioned, are similar to our other permanent sites, are selected based off of traffic pattern groups and looking to be placed in locations that are going to give us strategic data and allow us to make good decisions. As I mentioned before, these are providing both weight and vehicle classification, not just classifying the types of vehicles, but actually saying how much they weigh and able to say at different axles how much they're weighing, which is used in conjunction with the state police. They will coordinate with us to help their enforcement, to help make sure that the trucks that are being bonded on our roadways are at the correct weight. This is not an all the time thing, and it's only when they're being actively monitored that this activity is taking place. But it is something that we like to work with the state police on, and we've seen a lot of success in this relationship. So these weigh in motion sensors, in conjunction with our CAVC and ATR, using all of our permanent sites, we roll that data up and we use that in creating our daily, monthly, and seasonal adjustment factors, as well as our yearly growth factors, or K factors within RMS, and then our design hour factors used in highway design. These factors are all put out yearly in our Pennsylvania Traffic Data Report. So this, what you see on the right side of your screen here, is a copy of the most recent from last year's data. We should be having another one coming out here in a few months. And this will go over all of the traffic factors that are used within RMS that are looking at ways that when we're modeling our data, that when we take our sample data and we can more accurately predict who's on the roads, what types of vehicles are using it, and how that changes depending on the day, the month, and the season. Because while these permanent sites are being monitored every day, our short-term traffic counts and our statewide traffic analysis are only done once a year. So in order to make sure that these counts are effectively administered, we need to use those factors when applying to create our AADT values. So the statewide traffic analysis, also known as our short-term traffic area, contains our annual count program, which is the more what this area is known for. But it also has our highway transfer or turn back and our liquid fuels mileage programs. So the annual count program has about 15,000 counts scheduled throughout each year. They are sent to put out to bid for vendors to bid on, depending on the district of the count that they're taking place. These sites are selected to cover all of the state routes on a cyclical nature. The FHWA requires, depending on what functional classification and urban type of a road, how often we need to be taking short-term counts, taking a traffic count on a limit. So if that's 3 years, 5 years, or et cetera, and understanding when these counts need to be set, our annual count program looks at what counts need to be set for the year, assigns them throughout the districts, puts together a bid package, and then those get put out on a yearly basis, and various vendors can apply to do the short-term count setting of the counts. That data is set out for those tubes that you'll see on the road are set out for a 24-hour period, usually more than that, so they're collecting for a full 24 hours. And as vehicles drive over them, they are either, in this case on the picture on the right, they're being classified as there are 2 different tubes, with a set distance between the 2 tubes, so that way it can determine axle spacing and know what type of vehicle has driven over it. Or in some cases, we will just get a volume count, which will be 1 tube across the road, still counting the number of times that an axle is hit, and then applying factors from the traffic counter to determine the number of vehicles that drove over in that day. This data is collected up and reported back on a weekly basis to our traffic analysts, who then put the data into RMS, review it for compliance with various checks, making sure that it is both a valid count, that it was done within our compliance of our rules, and also that the data makes sense. We look at how this compares to previous years, how this compares to previous other times of year that traffic count may have been taken, and look to determine if this traffic count makes sense. And if it does, then they're accepted. And we operate at about a 99% acceptance rate. So very good, but there are some counts that for one reason or another are not accepted, and those will be added back onto calendar for future years. The Highway Transfer Turnback Program is a bit different. It's not like any of the other activities in the traffic counting area that we've heard about so far. This is a program that was established back in the early 80s that turns functionally local state routes back to local governments. They looked for roads that were better served as a local road, that would be more beneficial for the local municipality or the local government to be the ones to own and operate that road. There is a legislation that was passed that currently pays $4,000 per mile for each of these turnback roads. And once an agreement is reached, these roads are fixed up to amenable quality between the municipality and PennDOT, and then they are turned over to the municipality, and they become their road in the state that they are after all the work has been done. Once that transaction happens, that road is now a local road, the same as any other municipality road, and is taken off of the PennDOT system. This is seen as a benefit for both PennDOT and the local municipalities, as it gives them more control over the roadways and the types of activities that are being performed on them. And it also allows for more attention to be paid to roads that, while on the PennDOT system may be a lower priority because of being functionally local and having less traffic compared to other larger state routes, if they're compared to the local roads within that municipality, they are now the higher priority roads and get that township's attention. The Turnback Program is the main activity in the Highway Transfer Program, but this area does also handle vacations, adoptions, and abandonments through help with the district. So if there are roadways, right-of-way, or that are either being vacated, adopted, or abandoned from a municipality to PennDOT or vice versa, those activities and those documents get processed through the statewide traffic analysis area. And the last section within the Transportation Planning Division is our performance reporting section. This section is most responsible, and you may have interacted with it, in dealing with a Highway Performance Monitoring System, or HPMS. This is a FHWA annual submittal that looks at both inventory data and sample data across the entire state. there are some attributes about a road that are required for every single public route within the state of Pennsylvania, whether that's owned by PennDOT or a local municipality. And then there's other roads that have what we call sample data, and those are strategically selected to meet criteria set by the FHWA that will get a significantly larger amount of data collected about them, including things like nearby widening potential obstacles, shoulder width, lane width, the types of amount of parking that's allowed. And these information are used by FHWA for their modeling. So the HPMS is a national program that every state and DC and Puerto Rico are required to submit their data to on a yearly basis. And that gets rolled up by the FHWA and submitted into Congress. So this data is very important to be accurate and to be correct. So there's a lot of attention that's paid both in the yearly review to make sure that the data makes sense for that year, but also looking at changes year to year and understanding how our roadways are changing, how the sample data is changing, and what kinds of issues or concerns that may have. So the actual sample data is mostly maintained by our planning partners and our districts. They have a responsibility for a certain number of samples, and each year we will send out those samples and give them a deadline of when they are to have them turned in to us. But to ensure that they're doing their work correctly, we have an annual quality assurance review. So these are when we will go out to the municipalities, to the MPOs and the RPOs, or to the district, and we will meet with the person that's doing these reviews, set up a couple samples, and go through them with them, see how they're doing the activities, make sure that when they are out there making a determination about a roadway and the types of features that they're seeing on it, that those are accurate and being reported on in the way that FHWA would like them to. And so those are done on a one-on-one basis with just one organization. But there is also an annual conference that is put on a workshop by the performance reporting section that goes over all of the requirements, goes over a training of how to go through the samples, how to collect the data, and make sure that you're doing it correctly. After a few years of seeing this and seeing some improvements, the section decided that they wanted to streamline the process because prior to this mobile data application, the process was sending out PDF paper copies of the sample sheet and having each organization review it and send them back in. With the advent of telework and with things moving a little bit more into the work from home aspect, we wanted to look and find ways to help also make this less of a paper process. And this HPMS mobile app has been out for 2 years now. This was our second year of using it for collection, and has been a great success both internally and with our partners. They're reporting that it's much easier to use, much easier for them to get through their samples, and also allows us to streamline the review and make sure that the data that's coming in and the updates that they're making is accurate and correct. So this has been a great improvement for our bureau, not only for our internal processes, but also for those processes that we are helping our partners with. A lot of the activities that we do are reviewing work that's been done or collected by other areas and then making sure that it's compliant. And applications like this HPMS mobile application have really shown that streamlining this and making it easier for them to collect the data and understand what types of information they're looking for while doing their activities makes our work a lot easier. So it's been a great success for us. In addition to the highway performance monitoring system, so that does take a lot of the year to do between this submittal and then the quality assurance in the fall. But this section is also responsible for maintaining the functional classifications of roadways as well as the national highway system. So the MPOs and the RPOs within Pennsylvania are the ones who will actually submit the requests to say, we want to upgrade this road from a minor arterial to a major arterial or things like that, or we want to add this roadway onto the national highway system as it is now a significant national importance or contains access to a some piece of strategic benefit within the state. Those types of things come through performance reporting. They will review those requests, make sure that those make sense to the overall system, and that will accurately represent what's happening on those roadways. And then they'll work with FHWA to get that processed, and then send that information via RMS and other notifications back over to the cartographic information, who will reproduce a new map and make sure that those are updated as soon as the functional class for the National Highway System has been updated. And the last division that we have within our Bureau is the Research Division. So we've talked about we're the Bureau of Planning and Research, and the first two sections were very much focused on planning, and this is our research section. So our Research Division. So the Research Division has two sections within it. It is the Research Program Management and Implementation section and our Municipal Research and Outreach section. I mentioned before that our biggest change was our Resource Development and Management. That was our most recent change. We also had a bit of a shift at that same time within our Research Division, as where we saw our largest change, in which the Research Program Management and Implementation used to be two separate sections. We used to have our program management operating the research program, and then implementation and tech transfer taking over afterwards. And through the streamlining of our procurement activities, we're now able to have the research program management and implementation under one umbrella, which we're hopeful in seeing positive effects of having the research from the beginning all the way through implementation and then into tech transfer and beyond, falling under one area so that it never leaves anybody's purview, and we're able to follow it from beginning all the way through to the end. So I started getting into a little bit, but our research program management and implementation program is responsible for our annual research program, which is the one that I think most people would be familiar with. That is our annual problem statements that we will put out in early February. So please keep an eye out for those, as they should be coming out soon. And we'll collect solicitations from people within PennDOT for research problems that they would like to investigate. We compile those, put them out for bid, and get those research projects funded and completed. And that happens on a regular recurring basis, and we're the ones that drive those projects. Our collaboration projects are similar, in which they are still one university doing a project with just us, but the current consortium that we're a part of is IRISE, which is with the University of Pittsburgh. And so it's, instead of us as PennDOT having a problem statement that we come up with that really is driven by problems that we're seeing and needing novel research within our department, these collaboration projects may come from industry, may come from the university that's hosting the consortium. But the idea with these is that we are a part of the consortium, we have feedback, we are a part of the steering committee and can help choose which projects are being funded, but we are not the sole decision maker on what projects are being funded and how they're being completed. And with these collaboration projects, because this consortium is hosted at the University of Pittsburgh, all of the research done through IRISE is done at the University of Pittsburgh. The other two programs, which I'll get into in a little bit more detail on future slides, are our Transportation Pooled Fund, or TPF, and our National Cooperative Highway Research Program, or NCHRP. So before I get into those, we'll go a little bit more detail about our annual research program and our national research. So we currently have about 33 active projects across 9 different categories of research. So as I said, when we collect our problem statements, we will compile all of those up, choose which of our 9 categories that you see on the screen is most appropriate for putting out to bid. We have about 36, last I looked, vendors within our ITQ across these various categories. Handful are in all of them, some of them are only 1 or 2, and the vendors have pre-qualified to say that they are capable of performing research within these different areas. We will take our problem statements, put together a technical submittal with the Bureau of Office Services, and post this out as an RFQ. So these RFQs will go out, and those who are within the ITQ category for that specific project can see the technical submittal, decide if they want to put in a proposal for that project, and then we'll take all of those proposals, go through a selection committee process, and choose the best vendor for the project. With these, we have one technical advisor for PennDOT that is responsible for helping us through the project, but they'll also have 4 people on the selection committee process choosing the vendor, not just on price, but also on qualifications and ability to perform the research project. We currently have about $8.5 million worth of active research. We have a budget of about $8 million per year that we can do onto active research for new projects that are being initiated. But that covers not only our annual research program, but also our tech transfer and implementation activities, as well as our transportation pool fund and NCHRP funding. So there is a good bit of funding available for these projects, problem statements. Some of these projects run 6 or 9 months and are a much quicker turnaround, and some of them can stretch on for 5 or 7 years, depending on the amount of monitoring that needs to go into it and the type of analysis. We're really excited about this research program. It's been operating for quite a long time, and we're trying to both tell people about all the exciting work that has been done, but also get people excited about the opportunities for future research, both in the novel research, brand new ideas, but also building off of previous research that was done to make sure that we're able to use this within PennDOT. With our research, we're trying to make sure that not only are we good at doing the research and getting the research done, but helping to make sure that we're using that research. It's helping the areas that had the original problem, and that we also understand what activities are coming out of it, how this is helping PennDOT, and what has changed as a result of this research. So our annual research program is very focused on problems that PennDOT has that are unique to PennDOT, or smaller areas that are going to directly impact or affect us. We have 2 programs that we consider our National Research Participation, or TPF, and our NCHRP projects. Those 2 have some similarities, especially with them being national programs, but they are unique and they are very distinct and are treated differently. So transportation pooled fund projects, which we're currently a member of about 35 of them, and with a total portfolio of about 2.7 million. When these projects are decided on by a state, who generally they are problem statements that come up through conferences and workshops and other national things, or that start out as an annual research program problem statement that kind of grow because they realize that this is something that would be better suited to have multiple states' involvement in. And that state will put together a solicitation about a project, and they will say, this is what we are hoping to investigate. And they'll post that onto the TPF website, which is run by FHWA, and allow any state to join on to the pooled fund project. So oftentimes these are larger ones, such as our Clear Roads for winter maintenance, or the Aurora project. They're looking at various large numbers of states that are going to have activities that a lot of states are doing. We as a department will see those solicitations and see how many years the project is set to run for and how much money they're asking for each state to contribute in order to achieve their goals. And we will decide on a project by project basis if Pennsylvania wants to participate. We do not lead any transportation pooled fund projects at this point, and given the current procurement status, we don't anticipate leading projects. We are extremely active in joining on to pooled fund projects, and also helping with states that are able to be the lead on paper, help them facilitate it. So if you do have any questions about our transportation pooled fund projects, a specific project or the program as a whole, we're really trying to put a little bit more of an emphasis on what types of benefits we're getting out of these and the participation, because like I said, we're active in a lot of them, and we want to make sure that we're truly getting the benefits that the intent of the project set out to obtain, and that we're actually bringing those back and utilizing those within the department. NCHRP projects, while still national, are a little bit different, and each year they tend to be a little bit shorter, more compact, and they will have about 70 active projects at any given time, but they're putting out about 35 reports produced each year. And the NCHRP is run through the Transportation Research Board, which is under the National Academies of Science. So it's not actually a part of the federal government. It is a privately held nonprofit. And what happens with the NCHRP projects is that a standard contribution from each state, which is dictated as a part of a percentage of their overall research budget, is contributed to the NCHRP. That money is combined, and they will put out a solicitation on a yearly basis to ask for their problem statements, and they'll create a ballot. That ballot will have all of the problem statements that meet their criteria for being an NCHRP project, which then gets sent out to all 50 states, DC and Puerto Rico, for their review and for their voting. They will decide what their priorities are, how important a project is. And the idea with this is that you should be looking at it from your perspective as your individual state. We wouldn't want to focus on projects that deal with negative 20-degree temperatures, or we may not want to deal with projects that have things that have a lot to do with parts out near the Pacific Ocean. But we may want to be a part of ones that are not necessarily obviously directly Pennsylvania, but if they were to come to fruition, would give us benefits. And so we will reach out to the various program areas, ask for their input, combine that in. Those ballots get sent into each AASHTO region, and then gets compiled up. And then after a few months, that we will get notified of which projects are being funded, and those projects get carried forward. The other aspect of NCHRP that some of you may be familiar with is participating in NCHRP panel. So because these projects are nationally important and they want to have input from as many people as possible that are subject matter experts, when a project is funded, when it's starting to move down the process, they will reach out about getting people onto the technical panel. And we'd like to be active participants in this as much as possible. So, when we have projects that we see are higher priority, we see have a lot of interest within PennDOT, those are the ones that we want to make sure that we're at least opening the door to being a technical advisor on these panels, and making sure that we're helping not only make sure that the research is getting done, but help influence the direction of the research. So if you have been a member of any NCHRP panel, I thank you for your volunteering. And if you do have any questions about doing that in the future, or if you just want more information about the program, feel free to let me know. And the other section within our research division, which while research is a bit different of an activity, is our municipal research and outreach program. So they are responsible for three main programs. The first one of which is our local technical assistance program, or LTAP. So as you can tell by the name, our municipal research and outreach really has an emphasis on taking our research and activities within PennDOT and getting them into our the municipality's hands, getting them into our partners, getting them the assistance that they need. So this LTAP program, which is one of the better ones within the country, is focused on providing training, assistance, and education for municipal workers and their staff members. So it's not only for the road workers and the crews and the foremen and that type of staff, but it's also for the admin staff, for anybody who works within a municipality. So far, LTAP has educated over 5,000 municipal employees on various roadway activities, and they have set up 3 certification programs: Road Scholar 1, Road Scholar 2, and the Road Scholar Admin. All of these have a focus. Road Scholar 1, a little bit more basic, more introductory courses. Road Scholar 2 go a little bit more into detail, a little bit more into the managerial side, into the why of doing those activities. And then the admin, the ability for you to, for those who don't necessarily work on the roadways within a municipality, but that information is still important to them. They have provided these certifications to encourage people to take multiple courses, to sign up for them, to attend the trainings, to participate. And there is a post quiz that is required in order to get the Road Scholar certifications. Assistance is done statewide. I mentioned they have in-person trainings that will run. They're set up in most of the time in municipal offices in various parts of the state, and will run for half a day or a full day and go into a lot of detail over what specific activities. So there's ones on traffic safety, traffic studies. There's ones on stormwater management. There's ones on various ways to pave roads. And so there's a lot of these activities that our municipal employees are doing that they may or may not have full training on from their municipality. We are providing that through LTAP. It's been very successful. Rave reviews from everybody that's been a participant in it. I myself am a road scholar too, even though I have never worked on a road crew ever in my life. I think it's a very valuable resource, and so if you do have any interest, it is available for anybody within PennDOT to take, not just those who are on maintenance or construction crews. And if there is they offer drop-ins, so that you don't need to sign up for a full day class. They will have ones that are just an hour over lunch to talk about certain topics. And if they see participation in those rising, they may eventually lead to other classes. We've seen an increase in new classes over the last couple of years, specifically ones on drones and GIS basics have been ones that have popped up due to there being an increase in interest in those topics. Yeah, this program has been very successful for quite a while and is looking to continue to grow. A similar, right, it's as you'll see with a lot of our activities, they're similar but different. And so PennDOT Connects is a program that will sometimes get lumped in with LTAP, especially given the area, but it is a separate and distinct program. So with PennDOT Connects, it's looking to allow PennDOT and our planning partners to meet with local governments and discuss the details of a project before they scope the project and before they develop the cost estimates. So the idea is that we are building the partnerships, leveraging resources in order to deliver better projects. And we understand that as a Department of Transportation, we have connections to people within industry, and we have knowledge and information about what types of work needs to go into a project that not every local municipality has, and they may not have those connections to have. One of the big things with PennDOT Connects is focusing on all mobility needs and making sure that things such as bicycles, pedestrians, transit, freight, utilities, that they all have a say in these planning projects, and that they're done in a time that's going to not cause delays in the project. One of the big things with the municipal research and outreach section is understanding that local governments are doing a lot of similar activities to us on a smaller scale, but that those activities and that knowledge can be transferred and can be utilized by them, and wanting to make sure that they have access to it and that they have that information in their hands. This program is continuing to grow and is look for future communications in the coming months as this starts to take off here coming soon. And the last program within the Municipal Research and Outreach Program is our new Products Evaluation Program, or NPEP, for lower volume local roads. So the NPEP manages roadway product evaluations on lower traffic volume roads and helps ensure that they're safe, efficient, durable, and that they remain eligible for liquid fuels fund purchases, which is a large portion of what's going into this program. When a product is approved for lower volume local roads, it gets added onto PennDOT's Pub 447, and that will allow local municipalities to have confidence that what they're doing is actually approved and is going to be allowed on their road. So the last thing I wanted to end you with here is to wrap up our research division is just a little bit of a highlight of a recent award that we won as a part of the 2024 AASHTO Research Advisory Committee, or RAC, high value research. So these awards identify projects that were considered high value and then publishes all of them, and there are 16 projects total. Idea behind this is that it allows AASHTO RAC to have at their fingertips high value projects that can eliminate or duplicate research and allow people to know what topics are important and are currently seen as high value, not just by them, but by their peers. So every year they'll ask all the 4 regions, geographic regions for AASHTO, what projects they have that have been considered high value, especially have a focus on implementation. 16 of those projects are selected, and this year, one of those projects was us. So Pennsylvania recently, back in 2022, completed a project called Smart Intersections. That was the one that we nominated and was selected as a high value research award winner. And we presented at the TRB annual meeting this past just a couple weeks ago in January, during the high value research poster session. So this project looked at video processing of critical events where a pedestrian, a bicyclist, or other vulnerable road user had an interaction with a vehicle or other vulnerable road user, and classified those critical events into categories. And what the point of this was to do was to see if this video-based monitoring were to flag these critical events, is it doing so accurately? And once they started to see that, yes, it is these critical events that the video detection processing is flagging, or that those are accurate as potential incidents, the idea is that we won't necessarily need to have crash data in order to be able to make decisions about traffic safety. So Jeff Roker, or the technical advisor for this project, works with our crash data and understands that it only tells us a part of the story, and that we need to have a better way to fully understand traffic safety at an intersection that doesn't require an actual reported crash to be the driver of making those decisions. So after putting this out through 15 sites across the state, they determined that for about 20%, 1 in every 5 critical events that are determined by the video processing system, that 1 in 5 of those would be enough that a professional engineer would consider it to be an actual critical event. And so once run through and determined that the number of critical events that occurred at a intersection, Jeff and his team applied countermeasures in a way that was similar to seeing crash data indicating problems at an intersection, and saw if making those countermeasures caused similar outputs to the intersection as though they made those decisions based off of crash data. In this initial report, it very much was showing that it is effective, and that they are able to collect this video data processing, this video data through the video data processing, determine the number of critical events between vulnerable road users and vehicles, and say, yes, if we apply this 20% rule, we can say that this is the type of intersection that we're seeing, make changes to right turn lanes, to permitting straights at different things like that they would do crash data, but without actually having to need the crashes. Because this was a success in the initial stage, they're now piloting it within the city of Harrisburg. The 15 sites originally were all across the state, like I mentioned, and had a variety of urban and suburban and even some college locations, because they really wanted to emphasize the pedestrian and bicyclists as far as vulnerable road users go. So with this Harrisburg pilot study, they're going to be looking at within a tighter area, is this still showing the same effectiveness? With the idea eventually being that this can become something that PennDOT's using with our cameras that are already on our intersections, and running video processing on data that we already have to more or less create a new data set out of something we already have. Or if it is proven to be effective, provide this feedback with other local municipalities and other agencies, and say, hey, this video processing, looking at vulnerable road users and how their interactions with vehicles happens, you can use this to your advantage. You can set up video processing and have confidence that if done in the same way that PennDOT utilizes it, that you can get that data in a similar way. So I know I went over a lot today, and I really appreciate everybody's time and listening to what we do here within the Bureau of Planning and Research. If you do have any questions about a specific division or anything that we have going on, or you want to get involved with our research program, anything like that, I'm always available to answer questions. I'm more than happy to help, and I thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Pat, for your presentation and providing an informative look at PennDOT's innovative ways to utilize research and improve our work. Now we'd like to hear from you, our audience members. If you have any questions for our presenter today, please enter it via the chat box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Anya Walker from the Bureau of Innovations will read them. While we're waiting for the questions to come in, please direct your attention to the chat box. If you would like to be awarded 1 PDH credit for your participation, please click on the link and complete the short survey. Now on to the questions. Pat, please unmute yourself, and Brian Wall from the Research Division Manager will also be joining us for questions. Anya, what questions do we have in the chat today?
All right, thank you, Jacqueline. So we did have a couple of questions in the beginning about whether we can share the presentation slides. And yes, we'd be happy to share them. If you are interested, please reach out to us at dotinnovations@pa.gov and we can share Pat's slide deck with you. We also recorded this webinar and we'll be posting it to YouTube, and we will reach out to all participants once this becomes available. All right, next we had a few questions regarding maps and how to obtain them, how to request them. And Pat, do you want to chime in here a little bit?
Yeah, so the best way to request a specific map would be to reach out to our GIS information division, which Anya's going to put their resource account in the chat here. This email will be, if you have any questions about it, will be either an active product that we already are making, or if there's something that you are interested in maybe finding, or if we don't make it, that's going to be the best account. They'll be able to reach out to you. It's an actively monitored resource account, so somebody within the GIS division will get back to you very quickly. So if you reach out and you don't hear anything, I can help poke and get you an answer from there. But that's going to be your best bet for any mapping related questions.
Thank you, Pat. And I did post the resource account here in the chat. Another question we received was, what are common entry-level positions within the Bureau, and what are the qualifications required?
Nice. Thank you, Brian. I saw you posted a link to it, but as Brian mentioned, the most common position entry-level in our Bureau is a transportation planning specialist trainee. Almost all of our positions, both within our Bureau and our sister Bureau in the Program Center, are in the Transportation Planning Specialist series. I'm a Transportation Planning Specialist, a Transportation Planning Manager, and so most of our positions are in that series. And for the trainee position, those are designed to be entry level, and the only requirement that the Commonwealth has for all TPST positions is a degree in civil engineering, environmental, electrical engineering, mathematics, statistics, planning, computer science, or geography. I will say that it's more or less, if you have a degree in math or science or some related field, that's what they're looking for. But the positions are all going to be posted under Transportation Planning Specialist Trainee.
Great, thank you, Pat. Another question we received in here is how recent and sudden changes at the federal level have impacted your reporting process in the Bureau.
And if I start to speak out, I'm going to let Brian jump in here as well. But from our perspective, most of our reporting is done based off of what the FHWA is dictating. And while there have been some recent changes at the federal level, we haven't really seen many changes on our end. We're operating as we have been on a reporting basis, continuing to provide the data in the same formats and same methods with the same level of review that we have been. Until we hear direction from our FHWA division office, we're going to be operating business as usual for virtually all of our activities.
Nothing to add there. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Pat. Okay, now we have one question related to the last project you mentioned, the Smart Intersection Research Project. And the question is, How do you think that the smart intersections will address concerns about whether the crash had a drunk driver involvement or things like this that cameras might not be able to capture?
This would be a better question for Jeff Roker in the traffic safety area, but from my involvement with him and working with them on talking about this project, my understanding is that it won't really have anything directly to do with drunk driver involvement. That what this would help is in situations where there may be an impaired driver who doesn't fully collide with somebody and just has a near miss. And we may be able to capture those types of things, but with the idea with these is that it's not really for enforcement or for looking at the cause of it. It's more just looking to apply over the video processing to say the number of interactions that occurred, and just try to use that as a data point and trying to take away kind of the why, whether it was speed or an illegal turn. My understanding is that that wasn't even looked at in the video processing. That's just looking at a pixel in space and determining when a vulnerable road user, such as a person or a bicyclist, a pedestrian or bicyclist, interacts with that pixel, and then a vehicle interacts with that same pixel within a certain amount of time. The critical events were within 1 second. So it was looking truly at just when was there a person passing very closely in the same space to a vehicle.
Great. Awesome. And then
He had to follow there. I can see on there. So requesting about the still 80 crash data then, and that is something that Jeff and his team are very open about, is this is not meant to be a replacement for crash data. The idea with this is that it may be a supplement when there isn't fully crash data. Ideally, we don't want to require crashes to be the only data point for us to be able to make decisions about an intersection safety. This isn't going to remove crash data or say it can ignore it or will operate in a different way, but one of the things they were looking at was intersections that may have a lot of near misses but don't have a high enough volume of crash data to be able to apply countermeasures. So it's looked at more of as a supplement than a replacement. I would say we definitely are still going to need crash data, but ideally this is another data point that PennDOT can use to make decisions about safety.
okay. Then I saw we have a few questions here regarding IdeaLink and submitting ideas for improvements. IdeaLink is not operational at the moment. If you do have suggestions for ideas, innovations, you can reach out to the PDI Suggest resource account. I will post it in the chat here momentarily and send your suggestions there. Moment. I think that wraps up our questions that we received today. Let me just take a look. And we are at 10:59, so I think it's a good time to stop. And just to clarify, the PDI Suggest resource account is not related to the IDEAS program, which is what the research program focuses on. So if you have questions about the IDEAS program for new research projects, you can direct those to Pat and Brian.
Yeah, and related to that, if this question is more about the problem statements and the new research that we're going to be doing, that we do as part of the annual research program on a yearly basis, that solicitation is going to be coming out very shortly and running through most of the end of February and a little bit of March. So if you are an internal PennDOT person that does have an idea, keep an eye out. We'll be reaching out to the bureau directors and the district executives here shortly to send out the problem statement solicitation and get those ideas for the upcoming annual research program.
Thanks, Pat. And if I missed any questions, or if you think of a question after we end, please feel free to reach out to the Bureau of Innovations at dotinnovations@pa.gov. And with that, I'll give it back to you, Jacqueline.
Thank you. Thanks, Anya. Thank you, Pat. And as Anya said, if you have any additional questions, feel free to email us at dotinnovations@pa.gov. I'd like to thank Pat and Brian again for their participation today, and thank you all for joining us. We have 2 links in the chat box. The first is a quick feedback survey that we'd like you to complete. The second link again is to request one professional development hour for participating in today's webinar. Your feedback is valuable to us and will help us plan for future events. So please, if you get a chance to fill out that survey, we would appreciate it. I would also like to remind everyone to look out for the invitation for the next Innovation in Motion webinar, Transformational Transportation Applications, which will be held on April 8th. And also be on the lookout for our Focus on Innovations publication, which will be released online at the end of March or early April, featuring innovative projects throughout PennDOT. Again, if you have any additional ideas or questions for future webinars, email us at .innovations@pa.gov.
Well, we're gonna send it back to Pat one more time because we wanted to plug the Build a Better Mousetrap.
Yeah, one thing I neglected to mention during my presentation, and sorry about this, Chris, the logo was on the screen during the LTAP screen, but it was not really mentioned. We do have the Build a Better Mousetrap Innovation Challenge that's currently going on. It is accepting entries through March 7th, so the rest of this month. And the idea is that they're looking for projects that municipal employees, road crews, have something that they've designed and built that they're now using to help increase safety, reduce costs, improve efficiency, or anything to do with the quality of transportation. They're really looking for anything new and exciting that you guys are doing out in the field that is something that may not be used by others. No matter how small or big this idea is, please feel free to enter. That I know that every year they try to make a bigger deal out of it, and the Build a Better Mousetrap has been getting a lot more notoriety the last few years. So if you are interested in submitting something for that, the entries will open through the end of February and close March 7th.
Perfect. Thanks, Pat. Yep, that's a great program. Definitely check that out. And once again, thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to your participation in future webinars. Have a great day.